Hey everybody, how's it going out there? All right, so in this video we are going to walk through paper 2 for the class. So here's our home page. We're scrolling down, we see on week 2 we have the paper 2 handout. So let's click on that. Paper 2, which is an illustration assignment. This is due Thursday, June 4th, so we'll click on that. And here's all the stuff again. View instructions. We have our handouts here. And again, right, you upload your file and submit it. But let's open. I have the PDF, the Word doc, and an additional attachment with a few notes. So let's open the PDF. I'm going to download and open it up on the big screen here. Here we go. All right. Paper 2, illustration assignment, and this corresponds with the pages 193 to 205 that's uploaded there as well. You can look at as a guide. This is, our first assignment was the definition. This is illustration. So, and this assignment is a little more esoteric, a little more different from the first one, and we'll get into it. So, due date Thursday, June 4th, Blackboard, upload a Microsoft Word doc or a PDF. Follow MLA format. Everyone should have MLA format down after the first discussion board. Again, paper's worth 200 points. Here's the breakdown of the rubric, right? There's the rubric there. Thesis statement, meal paragraphs, MLA, conclusion. And here's where we get into a little different territory. Um, for this assignment, you will write a 3-page illustration. I'm asking you to illustrate your quote unquote philosophy of life or the way you think about and look at life. This broad topic is asking you to choose a way of thinking, an abstract concept, to develop a thesis and then illustrate your thesis through a number of points and make your philosophy clear to the reader. Now you might think, what the hell am I talking about? We'll get into that. And even you might think, I don't have a way of looking at life, a philosophy, a code, and outlook. We all have multiple, even if we haven't necessarily articulated it yet. We all have many ways we approach, view, think about, and look at life. This paper, I'm asking you to do one of those. Kind of like, in the friend paper, I want you to look at one friend. In this paper, I want you to look at one outlook. Think about your outlook and how it can be illustrated through specific, detailed examples. Write about 3 aspects. What is your code, your philosophy, your way of thinking that both guides and defines you? How, when did it originate? Who or what influenced you? How has it changed/evolved over time? We'll be modeling on our papers, examples in the book. You could look at those. Structure. Your paper will be set up like this. Start with an introductory paragraph that grabs the reader's attention and mentions the topic area you will be talking about. You will have a thesis statement at the end of your first paragraph. Follow with a number of body paragraphs that illustrates your thesis, one aspect per paragraph. Your conclusions should reiterate your points and also describe how you think about your area topic now in the present. So, like what we did with the friend paper, and I'm not going to collect these or look at these, but this is just for your own. Remember our writing process. When we get done looking at this video on a scrap piece of paper or whatever, start to describe your philosophy or code. What led you to this way of thinking? What important people, events, situations have helped shape your way of thinking? How has your code philosophy evolved and changed over time? Are there any specific situations that tested your code? Other terms for your philosophy of life can be code, outlook, way you approach your day-to-day life. All right, that's the assignment. Let's look at back on our page here a few notes I've developed. So we're going to download that. This is a Word document here. Let me download this thing. Let me pull it up so we could look at this. Yeah. Let me pull this thing up on the big screen. All right. So here we go. Here, think about your philosophy. So basically, what I'm thinking about, what's a way you approach day-to-day life, your outlook, your point of view. And, these are some notes I developed in another class with some students. Ivan, my friend Ivan, had a really good one. He approached his life always try to work toward being altruistic, helping others, you know. And he talked about, so the way he wanted to live life is to help others, to give back. He talked about how it started to develop, specific examples, who or what influenced it, how it's changed over time. Olivia's code was, try to remain disciplined, make it extremely specific. When you use these codes, be very specific. She also mentioned putting oneself in uncomfortable situations. That would really work as a code. How would putting oneself in uncomfortable situations be helpful in life? If we always do the same thing that makes us comfortable, right? We get the same results. Think about being in college, think about doing new things, think about all this stuff. Nina's code was always try and stay true, be authentic to oneself. What does that mean, right? James took our good old Nike slogan, "Just do it." Do things because you keep doing, otherwise you will, just do it instead of overthinking things. Cole had a more funny, jokey, nihilistic, pissing in the wind. Have fun when there's an opportunity, take it. Make the most of the moment. You could think of YOLO, right? Do the kids still holler out the YOLO? You only live once. Riley's code, outlook, philosophy: don't take advantage of the little things in life. Be grateful. Be grateful for the little things. Max was live like it's your last day. And when I was picking on Riley a little bit, I said, when she said, find joy in the little things, take advantage of the little things, what does this mean? Because this is different for everybody, right? Describe its origin, who, what influenced, include a few examples of it, how it's changed over time. And a lot of these outlooks, codes, philosophies, you have our Nike slogan, "Just do it," or treat others how you want to be treated. They sound like these commonplace phrases or statements, or in some ways cliches. And you might start with a cliche, right? You could start with whatever, be kind to others, be true to yourself, all that stuff. However, what makes it unique and personal is your distinct description and use of experiences and thoughts from your life, right? So you could take a kind of esoteric, broad statement, and this is similar to the friend paper, right? Where we all might have similar ideas of what constitutes a friend. We all might have kind of same outlooks, but how you describe it and personalize it and use distinct experiences, what makes it yours, right? Here's some other ones. I remember a bunch of students, this isn't necessarily my code, but a lot of people like, everything, right? What's the one? Everything happens for a reason, right? What does that mean to you? Always treat people how you want to be treated. Here's another cliche, but I think it's tough times don't last, tough people do. Take little risks, have fun. Don't let the past define who you are. Don't be stuck in the present. Try new things. Hard work pays off. What's a few of mine? And we all have a bunch of these, right? What's a few of mine that I've developed over the years? Charles Kell, outlook. What's the first one? What's a good one? Here's one I developed actually in grad school. One must do good work in the middle of chaos, right? This is a Charles Kell specific outlook. This was in grad school when I developed this, right? Because we always think, once all of life's drama, once things settle down, I can really get to work. But what you realize that there's always going to be things going on in life, and one must still do good work in the middle of chaos. So this started in, for me, grad school. Life goes on, but you can't not do work, right? you might have some bad things happen, but you can't tell Rhode Island Energy, the check's in the mail in 3 months. You got to still get stuff done, right? One must do good work in the middle of chaos. That was one code, and grad school developed, who influenced it. Uh, times, experiences I've used it. So I would have a body paragraph on all this stuff, right? And I would develop this paper. That's just one. So this would be one of my outlooks. One must do good work in the middle of chaos. What's another one? Oh, I like this one a little bit. Uh, and this is complete personal. This would be, so I would write the entire paper about one of these, not all of these. Remember, this is one code, one outlook, not a bunch. I like Be Cool. And I don't know if you kids remember Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz. I don't mean be cool like Fonzie, but one of my outlooks in life is, you know, and this is what you would do. You would take your code and specifically Define it. Never get too high or too low. What I mean by that is, obviously if something bad happens, we can be sad, but to not dwell in the sadness for a long time and to not really let it overtake your life. Similarly, we can be happy when something good happens, but to not let it overwhelm. We all probably know people who go on these wild up and down swings, right? So one of my things is to try and be cool, keep a level head, right? This helps me. So this is another personal outlook. Another one I have, I like this one. This is another personal one. Don't needlessly complain, right? We all probably have friends, family that every day they're just complaining, going on and on and on and on and complaining and complaining. It's like, run from those people. They have a negative outlook. Might be another one. Avoid, yeah, just, I'm thinking off the top of my head, avoid negative people, right? That would be, right? Stay positive. But yeah, for me, don't needlessly complain. That doesn't mean when something bad happens or a little bit, we could, kvetch a little bit, complain, bitch, whine a little bit with our friends. But don't just like every day when someone just goes on and on and on. That's just mentally, emotionally exhausting. So these would be just three relatively recent outlooks I've developed, and I'd write a whole paper on one of these, right? So and these are just a few off the top of my head, a few from other classes. You might have something unique. This could be something, you heard from when you were young, a saying from an outlook from your parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, siblings, something you inherited from them, an outlook on life, how you approach things. So you could really kind of take this however you want, but the key is one outlook, not a bunch. And below here, okay, I have some broad little outline here. Paper 2, questions, concerns, comments. You kind of want to get rid of the you and your in the paper. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire if you use it, but it's a little more, because when you talk about you and your friend and your code, it's about I, me, my. You can use I, me, my in these papers. So think about your intro. Jump right in with your philosophy, your code, your outlook. What is it? Touch upon it. Describe it. That's one way you could start your paper. Similarly, remember how you were defining your friendship. You're defining your philosophy. This is a little more abstract, though. Or you could include an anecdote that showcases it. Mention right? You could jump right in your paper. When I was a little boy, just include an anecdote, something that happened that really showcases your outlook, your code, how it started. And then your intro as well, too. Remember, mention the areas you will be talking about. I developed, my mom or dad was an influence on how I developed it. I used it in middle school with this. I used it in college. It's changed over time. Include your thesis statement as the last sentence. Answer this question. What is my philosophy and how does it help guide me? Write that down right here. Write that down. That's if you answer that question, that's your thesis statement. And remember my rule on the Kell rule on thesis statements. You should be able to pluck the thesis statement out of your paper and any reader knows exactly what you're talking about. So just answer this question. What is my philosophy and how does it help guide me? That's your answer, right? Remember, your introduction is going to be about quarter, half page, 3/4 of a page, double space. Body one, and this isn't, you don't have to set your paper up like this. You can do however you want to do. But this might help you, guide body one, origins of philosophy. How did it start? Who, what influenced it? Was it a person? Right? Did a person influence? Mom, dad, grandparents, friends, siblings? Was it an experience? Did something happen that influence? You can also say something from a song or book. Is there a song or a book, a phrase that really sticks with you, right? Remember, main idea. My philosophy started when I was younger with my parents, right? Evidence. In your evidence, right, you want to be really specific. Be specific. What happened? What happened? Who, remember the who, what, when, where, why, all that jazz, right? What happened? Be very specific, And then when you analyze, again, when we do our meal, you want to be very specific again. When you just say, don't just say, well, it helps me. How does it help you? Why was it so important? You really want to hammer this home. And this is the trick with some of these, and this is what makes writing so difficult, right? You have what you want to say in your mind, but sometimes it doesn't come out on your paper. Or, and I think this is more common, you're seeing the movie of your life in your mind, but the reader doesn't see that, right? So you're replaying all these experiences, all these specific details, and you're experiencing that in your mind as a memory, but the reader doesn't see that. So you really have to be specific. You really have to put it out on the page. So you might start with who, what influenced it, person, experience, time period, song. Was it a big move? Was it a big, something happened? And then once you talk about the origins, the opening, your body paragraph 2, remember each body paragraph focuses on one thing. Your body paragraph 2, what was a time or experience in your past that you used it? When did it help? Body 3, and again, meal. Body 3, was there another time? Or was it challenged? Or did you not use it? Was there another? You're plucking these experiences out of your life. Body 4, how has it changed over time? How is it different now? Right? So if it is something you developed when you were younger, it's obviously changed now that you're older. When I go back to mine, where's my stuff? Oh yeah, I'm not in grad school anymore. It's been a while. I'm not in college anymore. So the things I developed in one must do good work in the middle of chaos. Now I'm not in grad school. It's life now, right? And a life comes down, and we're working, we're dealing with people, and you still have to do good work. You can't, all these things. If you have a good philosophy, a good outlook, it's going to apply to different experiences in your life, right? If you're still struggling for what to talk about, and the body 5 might be optional. If you're like, man, I can't get to this 3 pages. That's another thing. If you're having trouble getting to the page length, reach out to me. Project. How might you use it, develop it in the future? How are you using it now during college, right? A lot of things with college, it's a grind. You got to get used to the college experience, right? It's a lot different than high school. What about future experiences with life? How might you use it moving forward, right? And then your conclusion, touch upon it. how you talked about synthesize all your ideas and then drive home why it's important. Why is it so important? So that's paper two. It's a little more esoteric, abstract, but I think it's interesting to kind of step back and think about how we view, feel, think about life, right? So, again, here are just a few ideas, jumping off points. If anybody has any questions at all, please reach out to me and I will work on this together.